you're good.
I kind of want to, well, I'm not going to bring all that in yet. They're not ready for that. You're good. All right. Welcome to Loaded Brush with Aaron and Elizabeth. That was really good timing with the music. Would you turn it down a click or two? I actually didn't test it. It's not super loud, but... So yeah, I mean, episode 1 or the first, this is going to be our first step-by-step paint tutorial. We're doing watercolor to start this off. It's good flat medium. Meaning my board is flat. The first picture I'm going to do, we're doing is this mushroom here. Do you remember the name of this guy? No. Negative on the name. First one we're doing is going to be this guy. I've set these up, so I'm going to go through all this in just a second. I'm just going to do like a little quick breakdown of what's kind of the scoop, and then, you know, a little introduction, and we're going to tape this down, and then we're going to kind of get started on the background. What I'm going to do in between each segment is I'm going to kind of do, they're going to end, I think, with a little fast forward of the drying process, because a lot of the time I leave at least 15 to 30 minutes between each layer, ideally, just so that and it'll look a lot different. So a lot of the time it'll be good to see how that sort of transforms over a few minutes. So a couple things on the introduction side. Let's see here. So yeah, this is the first one we're doing. I wrote down a bunch of notes, so I'm like reading my notes. That's pretty pro. So yeah, this is the first one we're doing. So basically we're kind of spitballing. There's a lot of things that will change. I have a feeling about this. We're sitting I'll flash like a picture of Elizabeth like here, and then
You literally changed nothing to this.
What do you mean? Oh, I mean, this is the studio as it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
the only thing we did was we built this like camera PVC rig to record it.
I'm sure we'll rearrange tables.
Yeah, yeah, and then so here, and then I'll flash myself here. So da 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 da, and then da 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 da, and that's me and Elizabeth. We're sitting across the table from each other. We've been thinking about doing some kind of little podcasty thing. So I don't know what this is going to evolve into, but for now, we're just going to keep it relatively short and sweet. I'll talk during the paint sessions and sort of say what I'm doing, and I'm sure there'll be just some chatter in there too. Quite the chatty Kathy, as I'm told. Let's see here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this tape down, and then I'll go over the little materials. The tape I'm using is pretty simple painter's tape. It's a 3M. I'll try and kind of hold this up. Let's see if I can kind of see it there. Yeah, so it's a pretty light pencil sketch. I'm going to attach a PDF to the class on this one. So if you want, what that is we're using 140-pound watercolor paper. This one's 7 by 10. This one's 8.5 by 11. We did the sketch at 8.5 by 11 so that you can print it on your printer. You can either get a 9 by 12 pad of this paper. I'd say 140-pound cold press. Don't short yourself on the paper. I think the paper is there's only a few ingredients. It's the paper and the paint and water. So the paper actually does make a gigantic difference.
Probably one of the biggest.
I mean, for me, I've only used a couple brands. I use the Arches, and I like Stonehenge and a few other ones. We'll do hopefully this gets working, because we've been also talking about just doing some side-by-side like demonstrations of how stuff, compares and stuff like that. So that'll be real cool to get that going. I'm gonna tape this a little straighter because I'm a nerd. There we go. There we go. Yeah, so usually, I mean, this is a little bit arbitrary. When I was a kid, I used to spend like all kinds of time taping this, and then like just to make sure it was crazy even. And I guess I'm lazier, or it just seems to go better if I just kind of like wing it and just kind of be like, all right, well, there it goes, good enough. This tape's a little bit see-through, so that helps too. I would say a lot of the tan masking tape, what's that called? Well, it's the tan one. We have some. We'll see if we can get it on the while it's drying.
Masking tape?
Well, maybe masking tape. Yeah, just whatever the tan one is. The cheaper the better. Honestly, a lot of times there's like green tape, all these crazy frog tapes and stuff, but they almost work too well on paper, cotton paper. So I'll kind of just take my finger along the edges like this. I have a couple right now where the water's coming under a little bit, and sometimes that happens. But if it happens, don't worry about it. In fact, before I go any further, I'd say actually I'd probably recommend getting at least a couple sheets of paper. I plan on painting this 2 or 3 times. I almost always do a couple, well, not anymore, but a lot of the time I do 2 side by side of the same painting, and then I have a chance to sort of play with different systems to kind of get it.
Less pressure on the one.
Less pressure. Oh, another thing worth noting is that this one actually has some gel pen on it as well at the end, just the mushroom part. On that note, I will kind of just do a real quick little bit with the gel pen tonight, and we'll be doing more and more with that going forward as well, because I almost always finish off the watercolors with a little bit of gel pen. I feel like it's like magical. It's hard to see glitter on surfaces that are like a camera or whatever, but anyway, we'll see how that worked out. Okay, so that's kind of the introduction. That's how we got started. The other stuff we're using is I've got the brushes I'm using that I think make sense, that are easy to find. If you have watercolor brushes of your own, that's great. If you have supplies of your own, I'd say use what you have before you go buying anything at the art store. But just next time you buy it, try and get the paper at least. But the paint here is M-Gram watercolor. It's like a smaller brand. I believe they're out of Oregon, although I think they just got bought by Blick, so they probably are owned by Blick. But they're awesome.
Undetermined.
The binder in M-Grams is honey, which is pretty cool, I think, just because it's cool. And then on the brushes side, I'm using Simply Simmons here. These are, if you don't have any brushes, these are a really good, like, inexpensive but pretty nice set. I have a Simply Simmons number 10 is the bigger round one, number 10 round, and then a Simply Simmons number 4 round. And this one is not a Simply Simmons, I don't think. Where is this one? I'll flash it on the screen. I don't remember. I'll have to look it up because it's like worn off. But these are all good. This is a 1-inch flat brush. So these are all watercolor brushes. They hold a lot of water. And honestly, I mean, this is a really nice brush. This brush is $15. This is a 1/2-inch Connoisseur. Oh, that's what this brand was too, Connoisseur. A 1/2-inch Connoisseur cat's tongue brush. And these are made of synthetic hair mixed with squirrel hair, which is it holds a ton of water, and that little point, like it kind of gets all floppy with it, and then you can kind of just like, whip it out and just kind of, you get a nice little point. So it really actually, as you get to be better and better at watercoloring, you should definitely think about getting one of these. It's kind of a game changer, I think. Anyway, I will probably not use that a whole lot. I'll just try to use the 3 that are a little more affordable. But sometimes I would say that mostly that Connoisseur would replace your 1-inch flat because it just holds a ton of paint. So it's think of these almost like a delivery method, of pigment. So like the smaller ones don't hold as much, the medium ones, and then the large ones hold the most pigment. And the paint, I was saying M-Gram. What I've done here, I've got a palette. I can't remember the brand. Any palette works though. A lot of time, for a long time, I used baking sheet and just put my paint around the edge. I do like to have a little wall between the paint and the edge because watercolor just goes everywhere. So having the little pans is pretty nice. The little cake kits are okay too. I think some of them are better than others. I prefer this stuff because it's got a really high pigment value, so you can get really rich you know, greens and reds and purples and stuff. So, and then the colors we're using, Quinacrinone Red, Azo Yellow, Cadmium Yellow would be okay. The red just, I think cadmium would probably be okay there. Needs to be like a more vibrant red. Honestly, any warm color that you want, orange, anywhere between orange and red is gonna do you fine. And then we have a Ultramarine Blue, Burnt Umber, and Hooker Green. Those are what I'm mostly gonna use. You can see I have more in my
What was the last one?
Hooker Green. Yeah,
Just wanted to.
I feel like for some reason, I don't know who it was, but I was like riding the bus or something. They're like, you know, Hooker Green is not named after a hooker. And I hadn't known that actually. I think it's like a, wait, is there a Hooker Street here? Maybe they were talking about Hooker Street here. Is there a Hooker Street here?
I'm not sure. Not that I know of.
Anyway, back to the point. You can see my setup here. This is really a beginner watercolor, so pretty straightforward. I'll be using one pan for the whole thing and combinations of just those 5 colors. If I dip into anything else, you can use the closest similar one and it would just be by accident. Oh, and then on the water cup side, I'm gonna keep this jar here clean. This is gonna be my clean water. And then I have this one is my dirty water, and it doesn't have to have 2 like this. This is just like an art store thing. I would just recommend having 2 cups and try to keep the cleaner one clean, and then all the brushes, kind of you can get your dirty water out of the, or clean them in the dirty water. And then paper towel, I would honestly, I mean, I use regular towels a lot of the time too, and I feel like in the era of recycling, a regular towel is not a bad idea.
Soft.
Yeah, but I'd say soft is really important, and I'm just using like, these were the cheapest brand, I think, the dollar ones or whatever. Or whatever. I'll stop saying that. I'm gonna start catching myself trying to say like those little kitschy things that fit in between other things. All right, so I'll go ahead. Let's see, is there any other things to mention? No, I mean, I think that was most everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and we'll go ahead and kind of call that the introduction. This next segment coming up is going to be the background colors. So here we go.
Det blir noe. Ja, så ja.